What's up, everyone? Special episode of the Diverse podcast coming up, not least because it's the first one I've done in person. So I interviewed Kevin Boakye, who is a senior consultant at Deverell Smith. We touched on failing forward in your career, being really true to yourself in the job market, and also touched on property as well. So how you can make your first sort of steps there also. Deverell Smith are an awesome, quirky recruitment firm. They were voted one of the top small companies in London. Right now, we're working with them to showcase one of their roles. So if you head over to wearediverse.io, you'll find a trainee recruitment consultant position, sharing this around June 2021. It's a really big one for learning and development, so an excellent place to start your career. And they pay really well also. So if you're looking to get your numbers up, then this is a good place to start. So I hope you enjoy this one. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Apple, leave a comment, and help us to keep climbing those charts. Enjoy. So welcome everyone to another episode of the Diverse podcast. I'm here in person for the first time, so super excited about this one. I'm here with Kevin Boakye, hope I said that right, let me know if I didn't, who is a senior consultant at Deverell Smith, and he's going to tell us all about that today. So Kevin, why don't you start by giving us a quick background as to who you are, what you do.
Toby, thank you first of all for having me. Quick background on who I am. So I studied a law degree at university and then, like most, fell into recruitment about 9 years ago, and I've worked in the property recruitment sector ever since. 8.5 years for one employer, and I've been at Deverell Smith now over the last 6 months, and it's been a fantastic experience today.
Love that. Yeah, that seems to be very common in recruitment, right? A lot of people, it's a great probably space to be in if you're not quite sure what you want to do in your career, right? Because it gives you a lot of transferable skills.
Exactly that.
But so when we talk about property recruitment, because I, for one, am not super clear exactly, what that entails. For anyone who doesn't know, like me, who's listening, what is property recruitment all about?
So I guess kind of taking the two different words. I mean, it's the recruitment of property individuals into the market. And so to use Deverell Smith as an example, we have 3 different teams that sit within the business. So there's the development and construction team, and that's where I sit. So that's actually the contractors, the actual builders of properties or buildings or of anything in terms of kind of rail infrastructure. And then the developers are those who actually kind of fund these projects. So that's kind of one aspect of property. You then have your transactions, and these tend to be, for many people, maybe listen to the podcast, you get the likes of Savills, you get JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle, you'll get Knight Frank, CBRE, and then you have your management firms. So within that you have like property management, so literally, as it says, the management of the property. You have facilities management, so these guys will check out your air conditioning, wear and tear in the building. So I guess most people have a perception of property is kind of the bricklayer or the builder outside, but property is very vast. There's finance, there's investment within property, there's legal within property, there's the front of house, that all contribute to the success of the property sector. So I guess as a business and as a sector, property is very far ranging, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for different people to actually come into the sector. And I think what is great as well is for a young person joining the property recruitment sector, it actually gives an insight into what you could potentially be involved in yourself. And I've seen a number of colleagues kind of join the recruitment game or the recruitment market and then actually go on to become an individual or a professional within the market, having seen what they could potentially become.
Yeah, I love that. It's one of those like life hacks, isn't it? We work in the industry and that actually gives you a lot of skills and benefits just to your personal life. It's like some of my friends that are working in the investment world and then they just make loads of money off that in their own time. It's a bit of a life hack. So,
exactly.
And it's interesting how you say it because there's a huge spectrum, isn't it? So I think part of this should be sort of demystifying the perception that it's only certain types of roles. There's a whole host of different positions you mentioned there already. But then Deverell Smith specifically, if I'm now interested in recruitment and property recruitment in particular, what is it that makes Deverell Smith unique? Why would I sort of want to go somewhere else?
I think first of all is the fact, and the word that should stick out for anybody considering Deverell Smith or property recruitment is we're a specialist. And so there are a lot of recruitment businesses who cover, cover property, they'll cover finance, they'll cover legal. At an entirety, obviously I'm not going to name any names, but there are firms that come generalist recruiters. However, Deverell Smith are one of the few specialist property recruiters. And I think for that always puts you a step ahead of your competition. when you go in there, whoever you're working with knows that actually this is all you do. You don't place you don't place, I don't know, someone flipping burgers one day and then place an accountant following. All we place is property individuals, and as a result of that, we essentially live and breathe the sector. So anything we do networking is property related. Anything we do in terms of our advertising clients relate to is all property related. So from beginning to end, it's property through and through. For me, there are a number of key factors about what we do and what makes us quite unique. I think one first and foremost is within being specialists in the business, we've actually broken down into specialist pillars as well. And so my team, development construction, which I said in, all we do is development construction. And so really kind of from the business out and kind of breaking it down, the further you get in, you're going to become a very knowledgeable individual within a specific field. And most of our team are within the top, I'd say the top 1% of what they do in the market because they're dedicated to solely doing that. And that's why I guess other than that as well is the fact that, we have a culture bonus, which is something which for me is fantastic, which isn't anything related around sales or performance. It's really around rewarding kind of positive behaviour. So, we get bonuses or we are remunerated efficiently for helping other people out with internally in the business or, for presenting initiatives to the business as well, which again for me, in what is a very kind of high pressure, sales-driven environment, to have the opportunity to actually earn off just being a good person or bringing good initiatives speaks volumes to me about the business. And that's something that has been brought in over the last 12 months in line with the business, kind of reassessing their values and what they want to do. The training is second to none. Annually, I believe the figure is about 100 hours is committed to every individual. And I've been over the last 6 months, and I kid you not, I have some sort of training every week. It can be sometimes you think, Christ, I'm doing a lot of training here, but actually, every single time we do training, you're giving a practical kind of takeaway to go and put into, to go and implement, and it's amazing. It's really helped me, even though I've been doing this for a long time, the last 6 months here in terms of development, in terms of perception, and the approach to my work. And I think that's also key. Is it's not just training at the beginning of it, and you're left to your devices. It's training along the entire life cycle of your time with the business. So. Yeah,
fantastic. It was a long list.
Yeah, very good point to be. And the last 5 years, they've been in, we've been in the Sunday Times top 100 companies to work for, and Property Week's best places to work. And so actually look out for it this week, be announcing when we've listed again for 2021.
There you go, congrats. That's a lot of awards and a lot of great factors there. I really like the commission element as well, because I think some recruiters do get a bit of a bad rap for having kind of commission and bonuses that are a bit misaligned, and then it leads you to not treat your clients super well. So I love that you kind of really focused on that. And just the environment here and your brand, it seems, I just found on the website super quirky and unique, and that you've got a podcast. That's the type of thing that is quite unique, isn't it? For a firm to be super focused on content, and I imagine that's going to be a super fun place to work.
And I think one thing that sticks up and loud and clear for me is, I think the perception of recruitment or of kind of talent solutions is sometimes just kind of, like you said, it's a sales role, you just go in there and smash it up. Actually, you become as knowledgeable as your client base, because for anybody you deal with, they just think about their business, whereas you have oversight of the entire market. And so I take great delight in clients calling me and saying, Kevin, can you advise me on what the market is doing at the moment? Fantastic. I mean, you've gone to university, you're chartered or whatever in a specific field, but here you are asking for my opinion what the market's doing. So I think as property recruitment especially evolves, you actually start to look as a professional within the market and actually an extension of the market. Without recruiters or our data, and that's something we have here in leaps and bounds, without the data, without the insight, the industry is poorer without us, and so I think that's something really key to hold on to as well.
Brilliant. So if we imagine, a recent graduate listening, or perhaps someone's graduated in 2021 this summer, what sort of roles do you have on offer generally? Is it sort of one early career recruitment role, or are there a couple of different opportunities you can get involved in?
Yeah, so the different teams, obviously, within the 3 pillars I've mentioned, always going to be looking at people coming at graduate level. However, there are also other teams, we have our data and research team, which we call DNR. So that's something that maybe isn't so sales driven, but is very meticulous when it comes to kind of doing in-depth research for clients, and that's another major service that we offer to our clientele is that in-depth data. So, if you feel that actually, property is of interest to you, but maybe not the sales element, that's fantastic. Our client solutions arm as well, who are equally, important for us as a business and what we offer out to the rest of the world. So, and even just support roles. So there's admin roles, we have marketing, we have talent acquisition for the business as well. So all of these roles actually still put you very much in touch with the rest of the market. And so I think there's plenty of opportunity. And I think also another aspect of what we're doing is we are very now pro kind of D&I, CSR, and really being or aiming to be what we want the market to be as well, and the sector to become.
Fantastic. So let's have a quick chat about your role then. I'd love to find out a bit more about what you do and what's your favourite aspect of it. So what does it look like on a regular basis? You're a senior consultant now.
Yeah.
You've only been here 6 months, which I find hard to believe. It feels like you run the place. But
please don't say that anymore.
Tell me, what does that actually mean? What's your job all about?
Well, interestingly, I'll probably answer that question in two ways. It depends whether I'm in the office or at home. And I think again for me that's another key aspect of the flexibility. I have opportunities to work from home. Obviously, the last 12 months has kind of almost necessitated that, or to be in the office. And so, either or, it's one thing I'd say is key to be successful in this job is to be organised. And so, organisation, I always kind of come into every day with a very clear picture, kind of a framework of what I'm going to achieve. Obviously, permutations change here and there. People call you out of the blue, clients call you out of the blue, you have to kind of sometimes react to certain stuff or be able to schedule your day. But for me, typically, day starts 8 o'clock with a morning meeting, normally with the rest of the team, and that happens 2 to 3 times a week, setting the day in store. We have obviously individual targets, team targets, and team kind of collective aims we try to achieve. I think that's also really important is, even though you are, recruitment is very much about you and what you can earn, reflecting the fact that we know the Sunday Times, we're in the Sunday Times 100, for example, is a reflection of a business that works together as a collective. And so there are lots of collective things that go through the day. Typically, I'll have a morning of client calls. That's reaching out to those who essentially, in layman's terms, kind of buy from us. And that will be anything from finding out their current resource needs, giving them updates on candidates we're representing, finding out what data we've seen that can be a benefit to them. So it's sometimes, it's an exchange of sometimes, I don't want to say taking, but actually, yes, you buy from me, but sometimes actually, here we have something to give to you. And so we have webinars, for example, sometimes we update clients on. And we've had webinars recently with the Bank of England, with Mike Frank, with some build to rent clients as well. So we're always doing more than just the recruitment on a day-to-day basis. Typically afternoons we have candidate calls, and that's proactively going out to market and approaching candidates about specific opportunities, and also responding to adverts. There's always something, like I said, there's always some form of training internally, going out, especially now that things are returning to normal, going out to meetings in the city and in the West End, and that's really what, you kind of live and breathe in the industry. And I always say to people kind of quite humorously, anytime I see a scaffolding or a digger or some sort of crane, it kind of gets you buzzing, because that's what your market needs.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's get on to the application then. So there's going to be lots of people now, hopefully really, really excited to join the business and the industry in general. I imagine you're going to have your CV element to it, there's going to be an interview, but what would be your top tips? And perhaps we could split it into two, any sort of tips you've got for someone getting a job here at Deverell Smith, and then anywhere else as well, if they don't want to work here, if they want to work in a different sector, what would be your advice for them on, take it anywhere you want to go, applications, interviews?
Yeah, I think key for me is be yourself. And in my application process to this business, I was just myself. And I think, I've actually this morning presented what we call a BARSTOR presentation to the rest of the business about how we further improve our diversity and inclusion as a business. And I think, especially for the nature of your listeners, it's be yourself. Don't try and be anything else. Don't try and make out like you know what you don't know. Just be yourself. I think at the moment, companies want to hire you. They don't want to hire what you think you're going to be or what you pretend to be. They want to hire you. So be yourself. Be very clear and concise on your CV. Don't overstretch any truths. I think it's just about being authentic. Authenticity is key for this business. We have a very wide-ranging group of people in terms of backgrounds, and we're only further looking to improve that. And I think there are very real inroads being made into achieving that. So we're looking at how we are recruiting, where we're reaching out to, and so there's real opportunity, I'd say, for anybody coming in. I think in terms of the interview process as well, it's just having clear ideas of what you want to do with recruitment. I think I'll say to people that on a day-to-day basis you do face a lot of rejection. It's not personal, it's not you. It's just the nature of it. You're going to speak to clients who maybe don't want to buy, you're going to speak to candidates who maybe don't want to move, and that's part of having maybe thick skin in order to be able to deal with that is really, really essential. And have a reason why, have a real drive as to why you want to do it. Like I said, if it's just about the money's not going to come straight away. It may do, but it's really about it's a long-term game. I think stats said most people do recruitment for 12 to 18 months and then fall out of it. You need to build up a client base, you need to network, you need to understand what you're doing, you need to educate yourself, you need to read, you have to read magazines, you have to read client news all the time, and really kind of get yourself engrossed in the market in order to be successful. So maybe having a brief idea, kind of a basic idea of what property recruitment is, or the property industry is, would be helpful, but it's not essential. So yeah, interview stages here is 3 stages. You will meet various people along the way. And it's genuinely awesome business to look at.
Love that, yeah. So be yourself was the first thing you mentioned there, which I think is so important. I very often hear from candidates, oh, should I change my hair? Should I get rid of this, get rid of that? And it annoys me when I hear that, because there is a bit of a negative sort of racial connotation to it, I think.
Yeah.
But also just the general idea that you should really try and change yourself, I think is just so wrong, because they want to hire you because you're unique, right? So you want to, if anything, stand out as much as you can.
Yeah.
And any company that you need to adapt for in order to get the job, you don't want to work there anyway. So you just be yourself and get in.
I mean, I think kind of taking on from that, if you need to adapt to join, you have to constantly be adapting every day in order to stay. And for most people, after a while, you just get fed up. You almost have to put on something every day when you walk into office, and that's not necessary. And I think also is actually the fact that at the moment the market and the sector does need diversity, and it's not really about fitting in. I think I've never been somebody who says you need to fit in. You just need to kind of almost people to appreciate who you are, and so there's great opportunity. I think the market is crying out for it. Recruitment business within the sector are crying out for it, and I think people should really see recruitment. Maybe 10-15 years ago, it wasn't such a noble profession, if I put it that way. And I think the way it's your approach towards anything, people kind of look at legal, medicine, finances, the more noble roles. Whatever you do recruitment, all of these sectors require recruitment. So recruitment really is just a bolt-on to any sector that you can think of. It's a service that plugs into that sector. So, like I said, I have clients approaching me to discuss the market, and you think, well, you live and breathe it, you should know, but no, they actually come to us. And so don't see it as, it's a role for anybody who doesn't know what they want to do. Actually, you become very, very knowledgeable. You actually become an expert. Sometimes even more knowledgeable about the sector than your actual client. So it's something that's really worth regarding on it from a monetary point of view, very, very rewarding if you get it right.
Yeah, lots of money to be made. Actually, I'm jealous of the big commissions that are in this world.
The commissions are available, and I think you're sufficiently remunerated, definitely. But the idea is kind of keep on going with it, and don't get too carried away as well.
There you go. Well, if you want to secure the bag, get yourself in recruitment. That's the lesson I'm taking. And so the other way is networking. We had a quick chat about that earlier. If you want to stand out, maybe don't just apply like everyone else and sort of keep it moving. Can you think a bit outside the box?
Of course. I mean, look, I think we're not adverse at all to someone to pick up the phone and saying, hey, what have you got going at the moment? Just pick up the phone. Don't always send the CVs. Everyone's going to send a CV. Pick up the phone. I've heard ridiculous stories like people almost kind of turning up to an office and handing their CV in. You've got to think outside the box, and these are all things that even when you get into recruitment, you need to think outside the box, because you can't just keep on calling through everyone on the phone. So think big, think different, think what's going to make me stand out amongst 100 or 200 other applicants. Because the market is starting to pick up, property is starting to pick up, we're seeing it. I think if anyone wanted to join, having a very diverse approach kind of from a thinking point of view, cognitive point of view is going to be essential.
Absolutely, yeah, because there's a big spectrum in my mind between like what all candidates are kind of willing to do and want and are going to do, and what only a small amount are going to do. So lots of people are kind of hitting the easy apply button on LinkedIn, not really hearing back, not getting anything, copy and pasting CVs and cover letters, and I have sympathy for people in the job market who get rejections, but if you're just doing the same thing and facing the same outcome, you've got to look at that and sort of reassess.
Yeah.
And if we look at this business specifically, what do you need to perform really well? It's that confidence, it's the willingness to sort of get outside your comfort zone and give it a go, get on the phone. You can show that straight away in the application process, and kind of skip ahead in the queue.
Exactly that. Right. I think confidence is key. Somebody doing it on the other end of the phone is going to know straight away if you're not confident. So I think confidence is the number one thing. And that comes with time as well. I think willingness to learn and to adapt is also really, really essential. Like you said, listen, don't just send an application. I'm kind of giving you free info here. We're about to be named in the Sunday 100, Sunday Times 100. Reference that in your email. That makes you stand out. Hi, I just realised you've just been listed at number 1, hopefully, in the Sunday Times 100. Fantastic, great news, really keen to consistent with positions. All of a sudden that sets you apart from everyone who just goes, hi, my name is Joe Blogs, here is please find us at my CV. We do it with our clients, we go and look at their market information and we send it back to them. And it just shows that actually we care about what we're doing. So again, likewise, do the same and really set us off apart. Follow up with a phone call, if you don't hear back, follow up with an email, send a LinkedIn message, go from all angles. Don't give up, because I think there really are some fantastic opportunities. And I think, if you don't mind me doing so, we kind of almost specifically speak to the BAME student population, or BAME kind of graduate applicants, is back yourself, because so what I do outside of work, probably mentioned at the beginning, I sit in school governance, I do a lot of work with Met Police, kind of locally as well, from New Scotland Yard and so on and so forth. I see the fact that a lot of BAME individuals actually do have what it takes. You can take them outside the working environment and put them in their comfort zones, whether that's kind of social gatherings or churches or wherever, kind of amongst friends, and they're very vocal, they're very confident, they're very quirky, they're very upfront, and you put them in a working environment, all of a sudden they lose all of that quality. And I just say, if you can sing, if you can sing, for example, if you can dance, you can perform in front of 200 people, why do you lose all of that skill when you sit in front of 3? It's really being able to transition the natural skills you have. You might be there listening, you may be part of an Afro-Caribbean society as a treasurer or whatever it was, or been in whatever club it's been. Transition those skills, those qualities into your application process, because that's really, really key.
Yeah, I think it goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about earlier, which is a lot of people thinking they need to change to fit the culture of the organisation. If you've got industries that are historically not so diverse, or you're looking at an organisation that is, and you think, I'm not going to be able to be myself, but that's completely not the case. As I said, they want you for you. They're going to hire you because you're unique to yourself. I think there's an interesting sort of crossover here, isn't there? Whereby, for me, a lot of people, and I see the same thing that you're seeing, which is once you have a chat with these candidates, I'm always blown away by how intelligent they are, how skilled they are in the different areas, but they'll go to their video interview and they'll be, super nervous. And I'm glad I don't have to do these interviews as well, because I'm not sure I'll pass every time. But, and I think especially if someone's gone through lots of rejections with their applications, we're doing this now in May, getting out of hopefully a pandemic in which the job market has been strong, of course. And so there's been fewer opportunities, it's harder to get these kind of opportunities that we're talking about, less so now, which is fantastic. But if someone's coming through that process and they've perhaps faced lots of rejection in the past, they've now got to kind of not take that personally and bring a lot of confidence to the table for the interview. So what would be, and there's an interesting link there with recruitment, right? Because you're going to face a lot of rejection in the industry as well. So I'd love to hear your take on rejection, maybe your mindset in the past, how you've gone through it and come out the other side, or maybe currently in your existing role. How do you deal with it?
I guess it's kind of borrowing also from my personal life is, I would ask myself, who really, excuse the term, who really here loses, or who is the loser? The person that doesn't try, or the person that tries and fails. If you try and fail, you're actually, I believe that in life we fail forward. Every time you don't get a good response, or you don't get a favourable response. You're actually learning what not to do. I think another key point to add to that is ask for feedback. Why did I not get the job? Why was I successful? Because that helps you reshape and reposition yourself as you move forward. Rejection is part and parcel of life, to be honest with you. We don't all get accepted in everything we do. So it's learning how to take why I've been rejected, what I've been rejected on, and work with that and fail forwards. Because, even in the most successful person in our office would have faced numerous rejections and numerous so-called failures. But actually, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, you lost a few battles, but ultimately you got to win the war. So it's a progressive thing in my mind.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, if you look at any successful person, they're like the people that fail the most, aren't they?
They try to.
Yeah,
and I think especially for vain individuals, it's you fail once or twice. It's like, it's the market, and I'm not being favourably upon, but actually to keep on going, because oftentimes just as you stop, you're at the very verge of getting through. To keep on going, keep on asking for feedback. Why am I not being successful? What can I do different? Sometimes you can ask for feedback in the interview. Great, thanks for meeting me. What are your thoughts on me? Put them on the spot. They're not expecting that. They're expecting just to go, thank you very much for meeting me, and walk out.
Yeah.
To show confidence. In my mind, I always prep my candidates that you're not just being interviewed, you're also interviewing them. Your perception should be anytime you walk into an office, especially the property recruitment is, why, you should you should ask them questions that are going to probe them. They need to want you, but you also need to want them. So why should I work for you? Why should I discount the hundreds of other companies who work for you? Hopefully I'm getting some responses to why I work for Deverell Smith, but it should be a two-way conversation, definitely.
Yeah, no, 100% you have, and that's so important, because otherwise you end up getting somewhere and it's not quite right for you. You're going to leave early anyway, and you've wasted a lot of time, so that's super important. And a couple of quick tips for anyone who does want that feedback. There's a few things you can do. Number one, if you don't think the interview's gone incredibly well so far, one thing you can do at the end of the interview is say, look, is there anything that, is there any reservations you have about me so far based on my interview? Is there anything that stands out that I should address? Because what's going to happen is, once that interview's over, they're going to go and talk about you with their colleagues and discuss whether you're the right person for the role. And, they'll have a couple of things in mind, which is like, I'm not sure Toby could do the role because we're not sure, he's going to be organised enough or analytical enough. But then if you ask that question, and they say, well, Toby, we're not quite sure about the analytical skills, that then gives you an opportunity to go, oh, well, guess what? I didn't include this on my CV, but while I was at university, I did this module or whatever, and it just gives you that chance to rebuttal something that might have got you rejected.
Yeah.
And then also, just at the end of the interview, that's a perfect time to book in a feedback slot as well, to say, you've given up an hour of your time to interview for this company. You can say, look, can we have 15 minutes just to chat a little bit about how I got on and get some feedback? Because you've got them at your peak level of interest at that point.
Of course. I think also is just really utilise the natural skills that you have. I think I've already kind of touched upon it, but every time I look, and I guess kind of specifically addressing your audiences, there are so many things that naturally come to people that they almost forget when they get into an interview. So many presentation skills and public speaking. So bring all of these things to the plate, because it really does make a difference. And I think, again, the industry recruitment wide, I guess coming down to property, is very much viewed as kind of white, middle class and male. That's changing. Our world is changing. I think there really has to be a conscious effort. And I said it this morning when I was asked the question. I'm actually the only individual with muffins as it stands, and it was a case of, how does that make you feel? But my response to that is, if I don't take the leap and become the first, who is? Do you know what I mean? So you may be a BAME female, for example, listens to a podcast, and you're thinking, I'm about to apply to a firm, a property recruitment firm, and I've looked at the website and they're all non-BAME, let's put it that way. What do I do? That's a challenge. For me, that's a great opportunity. Not to go in there and be, the only for the sake of kind of PR. Actually, that's a chance for you. As you break through, it gives many others opportunities to say, actually, I can also. I think that's a really strong thing for me. Is any space you go into, think about how you going in there is going to open the door for many others to come through. And that's really kind of positive way I'm looking at things now. Is to turn it around that way.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, I think that's a really important point. I'm glad you shared that as well. And you're super honest about that. It's been the same for me. Most teams I've been in, I've been the minority within that team.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just think, look, you don't need to go into a team that looks just like you. You're going to have to adapt in business to lots of different organisations, different countries, different cultures. So be mindful of that, definitely. And you can go in and thrive even if you're a minority in tech or media or whatever the space is. Just go in there and do your thing, and that's going to pave the way for others as well.
Exactly.
So I love that. And just before we move on to that, because I do want to ask you about property as well, because I've got a bit of a sneaky suspicion that I've kind of come here to get some tips on property, so I can go away and buy my house, get a good deal. But just to wrap up on the diversity element, how have you felt then? So now that you've been in spaces where it's not incredibly diverse, any kind of imposter syndrome or anything like that, or how do you feel?
Yeah, at times you do feel like you need to present a certain way or kind of articulate a certain way in order to be accepted. But ultimately, I think the funny thing is the people on the other side of the table just want you to be you because they also want to learn from you. I've never really appreciated when for example, I've been in a room and maybe colleagues are all shaking hands and they get to the fist pump. You're thinking, well, you shook 4 people's hands. Why do you feel the need to fist pump? Or they call everyone mate and then they call you bro. It's just like, well, you don't need to do that. If you call everyone mate, call us all mate. If you shake everyone's hand, shake everyone's hand. And so initially, and I think I made the point this morning when I spoke to my businesses, fortunately, for the background I came from, I've always, I say fortunately, it's almost kind of become the norm for me, being in the minority. But for many people listening to the podcast, it might not be the case. But I think my key takeaway is believe in who you are and know that you do have something to offer. And that whatever your experiences are, whatever your qualities are, a business somewhere is looking for that. And I think recruitment, apart from the monetary gain, apart from the fast-paced element, is a fantastic career. And you can really go away and, if money is your key driver, you can make some very good money very early in your career and step away and do something else or even set up your own business. It gives you so many transferable skills. It gives you a very entrepreneurial mindset. So you're essentially on your business or your desk or what you do. It's almost a business within a business. So you come to understand, your overheads, your client ability, your ability to present, your ability to negotiate, your ability to write pitches. These are all skills you can take into almost any sector. So I think that's also really key is that transferable skills from the sector are second to none.
I love that. Yeah, when I'm looking to expand my teams, I'm trying to find who's worked on recruitment because I know those skills would be valuable to my business as well. So let's go to this then. So if I'm a young person now who's interested in learning about property, I know I hear that people that get rich, they own property, they own real estate, but I have no idea where to start. If I want to at least learn about it, what would be your thoughts? What would you do? Where would you go? How would you think about that?
I'd say, look, I think knowledge is key. I think you need to be out there, you need to be reading. There are websites like Property Week, Estates Gazette, Building.co.uk. These are kind of generic property-focused websites where you can go and actually just understand the industry. Literally have a click around, have a bumble around. There are some of the key practices out there across various areas like Knight Frank, CBRE, Jones Lang LaSalle, Savills, your Garden and Theobald's, residential developers like Berkeley Homes, Taylor Wimpey, so many firms. Go out there, have a read, just get a bit of an understanding, have a bumble around the website, whatever it is. I think also secondly to that is, if you wanted to get into property, and again, because I have exposure to young adults so much, one point I always make is just keep a handle on your credit score. Pay for things on time. Don't think because you've moved house, they're not going to find you. The day you go to fill out a mortgage application, you're going to see that you owe someone £20 and it's now on your credit file for the next 6 years. So just be really, really kind of, prudent and meticulous with your spending. Save. If you don't save, you can't, you're not going to be able to buy. So I think have a saving mentality, be really close with your credit score. And I think that also at the moment, the market on ourselves, there are so many schemes out there to help you buy. So there's literally the Help to Buy scheme. You have your shared ownership scheme. I don't want to come across as a professional here and give you advice, but there's so many ways to get in. I think, again, specifically speaking to people maybe from a Bain background who normally don't have the bank of mum and dad, or the privilege of mum and dad, flipping a flat somewhere and giving you money for a deposit.
That would be nice. That would be
yeah,
great.
it would be nice. But speaking to the majority of the BAME community, we don't have that. And I guess my real driver at the moment is be the first to do it. If you're the first, 3 generations down from now, people will be like, well, my great-great-granddad, my great-great-grandmother has done it. And it's, I think now the times we're in is really embrace any opportunities you can and be the first. So save well, keep holding your credit score, look at options, maybe buy a family, buy a friend, some ways to get into the market or onto the ladder and search for that.
Fantastic, yeah, and we've just seen even more reasons why it's great to work in property recruitment, because it gives you the knowledge and the inside stuff on all this. So thanks so much, Kevin. This has been fantastic. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up? I feel like you hit on pretty much everything.
Look, I think once again is just believe that you have what it takes. I think coming into recruitment, it's very fast paced. It's very dependent on the sector you go into. If you're coming specific to property, it's going to have to be very heavy on knowledge. So be prepared, embrace yourself. But whether you've even gone to university or not, there's a space for you. We as a business, Deverell Smith, are very diverse, aiming to become more diverse, and we're taking some meaningful steps towards doing it, including doing insight days and so on and so forth. So there's space for you, I think is my final message. There is a space for you, and you do have what it takes, and we'd love to have you here.
Love that. So go and check out Deverell Smith, find out about their roles and opportunities. Kevin, thanks so much. This has been fantastic. Let's leave it there.
Thank you very much.